Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, April 10th, and welcome to the Tailored Expressions Live. I'm Heather Nichols. I'm coming to you from central Minnesota, not from down in the studios in Ankeny, although I'd love to be there. So welcome for all of you that are joining me today, and I'm going to flip my chat open so I can see who is here. Let me know you're here. Let me know where you're watching from. So I'm in Minnesota, like I said, and it is finally feeling a little bit warmer here. We are starting to see a tiny bit of green kind of popping through, and it's just barely there. And I heard the weatherman say for us this morning, we have the grass will come first, and then he's thinking like 2 weeks and our buds will burst. Now, I know a lot of you south of us are maybe seeing the green and seeing the buds burst, and it's just kind of that it's finally here kind of thing. It takes us a little longer up here. So yeah, just that touch of green. Hopefully those trees will pop pretty soon. So my mom and I went, we were down in the Minneapolis area last week. We actually went on the yarn shop hop, if any of you are knitters in the Minneapolis area, and took part in that. It was super fun. We hopped to 9 different shops and had a whole lot of fun. But once we were south of Minneapolis, you could see the green on the field. So it's coming. It's coming. So good morning, all of you popping in this morning. Good morning, Rachel and Valerie and Beth and Michelle and Marilyn and Carol. Good morning. Susan from Pennsylvania and Sue from Texas and Robin from Wisconsin. Sarah, it's rainy in Ohio. We've had kind of a little bit of wet. We had scattered showers yesterday kind of coming through. So good morning, Barbara and Bobby. She says, yes, it's green, just a couple hours south of you. So St. Cloud is about an hour and a half northwest of Minneapolis. And so when we get down to Minneapolis, it's amazing the difference just a few hours can make. And some of the places we went were south of the city, so you definitely could see the green down there. So yes, oh yeah, lots of crazy storms and tornadoes. I think it would be great if those just calm down. That is one of my things that I don't care for, is tornadoes and wind and all of that. So good morning, all of you. It's so good to see you. I hope you're having a great week. And oh goodness, Don, you're watching while getting your chemo treatment. I hope we are a happy distraction for you with that. So I'm glad you're able to join us and hopefully have some inspiration for crafting later, all of you. So yes, Tiffany says she's in Colorado and spring happens in May. Yes, we will still get snow sometimes into May up here. That's just, that's just the way it is. So I know there's a lot of places in the country that it's kind of, you can have all 4 seasons in like 1 week, sometimes 1 day, depending on how things go. I think there was a day, this was a couple weeks ago, and we had southern Minnesota in the 80s and I think 30s up in the northern. I mean, it might have been even lower than that. There was a huge temperature swing from the southern part of the state to the north part of the state. So Mindy, you have tulips popping up. I don't know. I bet you're a little bit south of me yet. I don't have a whole lot coming up in my area. I haven't really totally inspected my gardens, but I don't think there's a whole lot yet. So yeah, so this week at Tailored Expressions Land, as I like to say, we had the release of the Flit and Flutter collection, and I think it's I'm saying St. Cloud because I live here. The scrapbook retreat. It was a virtual retreat that Taylor taught at, where these products were used in the class, and now they are part of our collection and anybody can join them. I know that there were some things that they were sold out. This is something that's not a limited release. This is something being added to our collection. So if you missed out on the release on Tuesday, never fear, we're going to restock. This is a part of our collection now. And same for what I'm going to talk about today, because today is Throwback Thursday. So we are going to talk about what is now available. It first came out in March of last year at the end of the month. It was the Scattered Blooms kit. It's a kit that I designed, and I'm excited that that is going to be now part of the TE collection. So let's talk about the Flit and Flutter release a little bit too. If you didn't see the video on Tuesday, Terry had one out there. Obviously Taylor had her live as well, where she created with the collection. So if you want to catch some inspiration for those, make sure you check out the blog and our social media so you can do that. There's a couple of different bundles that you can take part of that help you. They're like, I really like them. They're like color coordinated bundles, just some different color schemes that you can pick out that give you the things that you need for creating card sets. I think there were some labels in there too. Go check those out. Those are really awesome, especially if you are going to be doing some card making for gift giving. Mindy says we should name the store TE Land. I don't know if Taylor would go for that. And there also is, if you purchase from the Flit and Flutter collection, which if you do the what's new, there should be a little category for that. So if you purchase from that collection, you're going to get a coupon for the TE Made For Me shop to get one of our personalized stamps for 25% off. And I know they said that there are some designs in there that actually coordinate with the Flit and Flutter collection. So check it out if you haven't. Let's see what else is going on. I know there's a TE Maker Challenge. It's a color challenge this month as well. So make sure you're taking a part in that. And yeah, so why don't we get into the Scattered Blooms Throwback Thursday stuff? Let's look at what we are bringing into the collection today. And also we have a few new products that not only coordinate well to use with this collection, but I think you're going to like them for other projects as well. So I'm going to flip down to my screen so you can see I have some card samples. I love it when Whitney sends me card samples to share with you from some of the other designers. So I have a few of those to share with you, as well as the cards that we are going to create today. So let's flip down and take a look at what we have here. So these are the two cards that we are going to work on today to create today, I guess. And you'll notice that we've got the stencil set, which that is one of the things joining the collection. This is a 5-layer stencil right there. So this is something that you can purchase now in the collection, and this creates, and we're going to do this in a little bit, this creates a whole floral background like this, which this design works really well just on its own. You could use this as a background on your card. You could cut this up and use it like pattern paper, kind of however you want. Got a little sparkle on there too. Or you can also use the coordinating die to cut out the flowers. You can cut them all out at the same time using the cutting plate, which is here. There's little guides there to help you line everything up, and it also adds impressed details into the flowers. Now you can use these to cut out the stencil design like this, but you can also use these flowers on their own. And I think Jill has a card here that she didn't use any of the stencils. She only used the die, and she put it through her die cut machine and just kind of impressed in here and kind of created this textured background. And then she also cut out the shapes and then did some ink blending on them to add color. So these are just with the dies. So you can use these with the stencil design. You can use these on their own. There's so many fun things that you can do. This is one where this one I think is Sue Banker. Yep. And ooh, she foiled. That's another thing that's available. This has been available, but it is also part of the collection would be the foilet pieces. And actually, I think no, maybe that's not foilet. I think she actually used the stencils to create this kind of shiny thing. This must be with one of the, I can't think of the name of it, one of the pastes, the metallic-y pastes. I can't think of it. You guys are probably all going to start yelling at it for me. Maybe I don't have a sample with the foilet, but the foilet is available as well in the TE web store. That's part of the collection. And also there is the insiders. I've got mine in a bag here. So these are available as well to go inside your card, or you can use these obviously for the front of your card as well. So you can check these out as well. So these are all in a category. And if you purchase from the Scattered Blooms category, and again, if you go onto our What's New tab on our friend store, you'll see everything. Okay, let's talk about the new stuff, which you guys are seeing right here. We've got Oh Happy Day, and we have Thanks, and we have Hey There. This is the new Mega Messages die collections. So each of these comes with kind of a mega word, a word that, or sentiment that fills up a big portion of your card front. So these are great over a lot of your texture backgrounds. This would be awesome with the Piece Patterns collection or the Talking in Circles collection. And then it also has a backer so that you can create kind of a border with another piece of cardstock, or I used vellum here. Jill used a piece of sugar cube cardstock. She blended her Hey There piece and then did that, or layered them together like that. I used the backer, and we're going to do this here. I actually cut out of the background to create a spot to set my sentiment, kind of inset it in there. So that's another way you can use that. So these are all great. So these are available. Everything is now part of the collection. It's not a special release at all. The one thing that is special is if you purchase from the Scattered Blooms collection, you will get a little pack of envelope seals. These are the envelope seals. I think you get a pack of 6, so then it's 3 of this one and 3 of this one. So you have the cutest stickers to either use. You can use these on your cards. You can seal your envelopes with them, whatever you want to do. I obviously have a whole bunch because I need them all. But you'll get these envelope seals when you purchase from that Scattered Blooms collection. Yes, Susan, thank you so much. Lunar paste, that is what she used on here to get that cool metallic look. I love that. It's so pretty. And she also impressed, actually, I think she actually cut and layered this together to create her background. It looks like there's 2 layers of cardstock there. There's like so much dimension on this card. It is really cool. Look at those sparklies and some little glitter drops on the tiny flowers for extra sparkle and shine. That's gorgeous, Sue. Let's take another look at Jill's cards. Both of her cards include that famous Jill stitching on the letters. Adds that extra texture. I loved Jill, how she puts together some of these color combinations. These look like they are actually blended as well. I don't know if she started off with one piece of cardstock and then, but there's definitely blending on here for adding dimension. She used one of our masking stencils in the background to create that blue area there. This one, she stenciled it and then she ran the die over the top of it, but not so much that it will cut out, so that you have kind of that stenciled look with the texture all in one piece. So very, very cool. I love seeing these in person. If you ever get a chance to go down to the TE studio, there are so many of the design team's cards on display. And it is so, you guys seeing these on video and seeing these on picture, you can see how beautiful they are. But it is just something else to see them in person and be able to see the texture and all of that happening on them. So pretty. Okay, so maybe let's get crafting. I'm gonna slide these over. Like I said, we're gonna end up creating both of these cards today as well. You can see I have a little bit of glitter on there, and we're gonna do this one where we cut the blooms out and then use them on a card by themselves, or individually. Okay, so let's start off with stenciling the florals. Let me grab my stencils, and I need my cardstock. I have a piece that I cut 6 by 6, so it just totally matches up with that, with the stencil. That's something when I'm stenciling that I really, really like to do. Jill's asking, how do you run it through your die cut machine without cutting all the way through? Some people, their die cut machine doesn't cut all the way through depending on the pressure in your machine. So that would be one way. My machine, I usually have to use the detail plate. I'm going to try something different when we cut out today because my plates are a little bit warped. So we're going to try newer plates today to see how that goes. So that sometimes doesn't cut all the way through. Also, you can set it up like you're embossing it. So you can actually basically follow like you're doing an impression plate or something on your die cut machine and use your embossing pads underneath so that there's not so much pressure, but just enough to impress the design into your cardstock. So it's almost a whole other thing. It's fun to experiment with different dyes and things like that to see what kind of effects you can get. Okay, so I use Pixie Spray on the back of my stencils to hold them in place, and some people like to use magnets or tape to hold them in place, and that's fine. Pixie Spray is just that light spray adhesive. I just spray thin layer on the back, and then we're gonna just go ahead and pop that into place. I'm gonna actually, my watch, I did not set my do not disturb, so we're gonna do that right now. All right, I have things popping up on my watch. I don't need that distraction for sure. Okay, so I had to come up with a color combination for what I wanted to do. So I went to my color cubes and pulled out a card. I just kind of rifled through and found something that looked interesting, something that was a little bit more out of the box for me. And I pulled this card out, and then I went to my TE colors and started pulling colors to see what I would want to put together, and this is what I came up with. So these are the different combinations of colors we're going to use to stencil on our project today. So I've got peaches and cream, and we're going to shade with pumpkin, macaron, and we're going to shade with dried fig, green tea, and we're going to shade with Brussels sprout, and then mulled wine and mocha we're going to use just kind of as is because they're smaller little areas. But I love being able to take these and kind of make them work with the TE colors to just try out different things. So I know I've shown some of this before. So there's that card if anybody needs a screenshot of it for your inspiration file. So we're going to start with that first layer, and this first layer is going to be the peaches and cream. We're going to lay that color down first. And I'm going to try, I'm using a lighter touch. If you've followed me at all, you know sometimes I have a little bit of a heavy hand when I am blending, but I want my color to stay fairly light. Now, peaches and cream is a generally lighter color anyway, but I've still been known to just be a little bit heavy even with the lighter colors. So we're just going to lay this color down first. I'm also going to make sure I get my little registration guides on my stencil. Pam, you said you're heavy-handed too. One thing we had talked about, like if you're more heavy-handed, one trick is to hold your brush farther out to the end. And then you're not putting so much pressure on it. And I think it definitely helps not be so heavy. Okay, so this one we're going to add a little bit of shading to the tips of the petals using pumpkin. You can use other colors too, like a sweet potato pie works for this. You could actually use orange candy corn as well. I'm going to use a detail blender brush for this, and I'm literally going to hit the tips of these flowers just to add that kind of pop on the ends of the petals. One thing I love about flowers when you're doing kind of these blending things is that it's hard to make a mistake on a flower. Flowers come in so many colors and varieties and different things like that. And of course, these are not real flower kinds, so you can just have a little bit of fun with this. Susan, you're asking about the peaches and cream cardstock. I know they're working on getting some of the colors that have been a little bit more difficult to come in. I don't know when, but I know what you guys know. We've been working on this the whole time. We want the colors too. All right, so getting just those tips of those petals. I love what it looks like already. Now I've talked about this before. I'm not the smoothest blender. I definitely get splotches and splats where it gets kind of too dark and different things like that. But the TE inks definitely move on their own to spread and even out. So I always feel like even when I'm like, oh, that looks terrible, in just a little bit, it will look a little bit better. I'm going to pop some color in here just to get a little bit darker. The other thing I'm going to do too is that now I've added that color around the tips of the flowers. And so I'm going to go back to my peaches and cream. I'm just going to put a little bit more of that color in the center, and that's going to help with the blend as well. Kind of push the other color a little bit. Just slightly. Okay, so that's peaches and cream and pumpkin. Let's take this off. Cute, cute. That's our layer number 1. Layer number 2. You guys, I set my stencils down. Here they are. They're right in front of me. Layer number 2, we're going to use macaron and dried fig. Spraying that back of the stencil with that. And I'm going to line up not only with my piece of cardstock, because like I said, I'm cutting it 6 by 6, the same size as the stencil, but I'm lining it up with those guides right there. Let's start with macaron to fill in these flowers. Again, using that lighter hand. Holding that down by the thing. Debbie, you're asking if I painted my stamp pad holder. This was an exclusive thing that at one of the virtual stamp toys, it wasn't this year, I want to say it was last year or the year before, that we had some of these made in the teal color. So they aren't available in that color normally. But it is lovely. I love the teal. I actually do have a white one as well. Okay, there's our macaron. And let's go ahead and add detail with whoop, whoop, dried fig. I'm throwing my brushes around over here. I have them all in a little jar. I could actually put that right there. Dana, now you need this? Believe me, I know how this goes. I need it all too. Okay, so we're going to add just to the tips of that with the dried fig. With my Beat Detail blender brush. And of course, you don't have to blend like this. You could just do flat color if you're trying to speed up the process or you don't want to worry about blending. It's still going to be beautiful. This just gives those flowers just that extra pop of dimension. I know one thing that does help, and I try to remember it when I'm blending, is actually start your color kind of off to the side and then come in. And then usually it's not so much, I guess, but I also forget most of the time. And it seems to work out. It does seem to work out. One more little one down here. Get those tips, that dried fig color. I'm going to do the same thing on this one that I did on the other one and just kind of give it another pop of color in the middle to kind of push out towards those darker colors to encourage that blend. Okay, so let's take this stencil off. Like that. Oh, we didn't talk about next week, did we? I think I jumped right into this, so I might have to break my rule. I usually show sneak peeks at the beginning. I will show a sneak peek at the end. So I do have a sneak peek about what's coming up next week. So hang in there with me. Let's craft first and remind me, start yelling at me when I'm getting done to show the sneak peeks, because I do have them. They're sitting right here. Like I said, I think I got too excited about what we're making today. Okay, so this is layer number 3. This is the leaves. I'm going to do my first color with green tea. Okay, so we're going to lay down the green tea first in the leaves, and then I'm going to come in with just a little bit of color for a touch of shading on the leaves. Now the leaves are pretty small, so the shading isn't, I mean, it doesn't show up a whole lot, but it does. I like it, so I add it. But you could just do the single color too if you didn't want to do the blending. Someone mentioned splattering. Yep, you're probably going to see that too. That green down. And then to do the blending, I actually reference my cutting plate to see where the leaves are sitting on with this as far as the different texture is concerned. So you can see that I've got kind of a veining texture in there, so I want the blend to be kind of at the base of the leaf. Now, this is reversed from what you've got in front of you, but I already did it on here. So I'm going to set this here just to use as a guide for adding my touch of blending. So I've got Brussels sprout to do my blending so I can see which direction the flowers are going. So I'm just literally going to add this right to the base of the leaf. And if I get one backwards, it's really okay. The leaves are pretty small, so if it's not on the right side of the leaf, I don't know that you're gonna have the card police come and get you. No sneak peeks now. You're not gonna tell. I'll show them at the end because otherwise I have everything from one end of my desk to the other. All right, I think I've got almost all of the leaves. I think I gotta hit these little tinies down here. This one right here. I think we're good. All right, so there is stencil number 3. So our design is starting to kind of look a little bit more garden-y with the leaves in there with the flowers. So let's go on to the next stencil layer. And all these are numbered. So you can see here we've got the product number and then there's a dash number. So there's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the suggested order that we say to do your stenciling in. If you want to do it a little bit different, that's up to you, but that's the suggested order. Sometimes it works to go out of order, sometimes it doesn't. This one, for sure, the last one you would have to do last, and you'll see why here in a little bit. So this one is the little tiny flowers that kind of are sprinkled between the big flowers. And those are going to be mulled wine. I'm not going to do any specific shading or special shading on these. They are small enough that it's okay. And I try not to be super heavy-handed on these. Just kind of a light, because even just that different color tone between flowers is going to add texture to your project. Mary's asking about the TE Maker Challenge, about if it's just cardstock or if we can use ink. Whatever you want. So if you want to do yours with ink colors, it's just using those 2 colors in your project. That's part of the challenge. Doesn't have to be specifically cardstock or specifically ink. Unless it says in there, and I don't think it does. Okay, so that's your layer number 4, which adds those flowers in between. This is just really popping now. And now we're going to do the final layer, which is the flower centers on the purple and peach flowers. Gail's saying she's glad there's no card police by her house. There are no card police, you guys. There might be people who think they're card police, but there really is not. You can do your cards. You're the boss of your own cards. Okay, this last layer, like I said, is the flower centers. So the one thing that you do need to think about with this layer is you need to make sure that whatever you're going to layer on top is going to show. So you need something that's darker in general to put over the top. This is also the layer that I did the Happy Medium gold glitter, which I'm just going to leave this one as is because this is the background we're going to use for our cards. But I do like layering that gold glitter over like Mocha and stuff. It gives it a cool texture. So usually this last layer, think about, you know, what colors you're layering on top, but also what kind of fun things can you add, like the Happy Medium or like the lunar paste that was added on this card, that would be the layer to do it. So, and this is what the Happy Medium Gold glitter looks like. I use my media spatula to spread it over. You've seen me do it before, so it isn't something that's brand new that I've shared, but I'm not going to share it today. Because this layer, once we get this all cut out, we're going, or all stenciled up, we're going to cut this out. So I'm using Mocha for the flower centers here. And I didn't put the gold glitter on this layer because we're going to cut this out and there's little impressions that go into the center of the flowers. And I thought that was enough for the flowers that were being cut out. You're still talking about the sneak peeks, you guys. I'll do it. I'll do them at the end. I know I usually do them at the beginning, but I'm going to do them at the end. Charlie might have to put a disclaimer in my video that they are at the end today. Okay, there we go. And that is your finished stencil design. And like I said, this by itself is great for like a background of a project, add a sentiment, and you're good. I mean, we talk about even just the sentiments that we're releasing today, those bigger, chunkier ones. Those are just adding those right to the card, right on top of that layer. That's awesome. That makes it quick and easy to do. Obviously, with a lot of these things that we share with you, there's the, you know, you can keep it simple or you can step it up and have a lot of fun with it. So, okay, why don't we, I'm going to splatter, but let's cut these out first, I think. So I'm going to set these aside. So like I mentioned on the die, there are guides here that match up with the guides in the stencils. So not only are you using those guides on the stencils to stencil your design, but you're also using it if you want to use the cutting plate to set it out. Now you'll also want to look at this as well because there's a clue of which way to put it. So there's this leaf that sticks out, so you want to look that and then you know you're the right direction. Besides the fact you've got the squares, that's another guide for that. So we're going to line that up because we want it to cut out those flowers and add those impressions to those flowers. So we're going to make sure that those little squares are centered in those guides. So I'm gonna tape this down, and I usually tape it down pretty good. Now you can use your detail precision plate to cut out the details as well. I will tell you, the more pressure you add to your die cut machine, the more your cardstock is going to move. Which, number one, that's why I'm adding the tape here. Like, stay still, don't move. But the tighter you squeeze, the more movement is going to happen. So let's go ahead and grab my die cut machine. We're gonna cross our fingers and toes that everything's gonna line up. So my plates are pretty, I mean, they're not terrible, but they're pretty worn. So I have these are actually really long extending plates, but they are newer. So I thought I would try these to get, I was having trouble with my pressure on my machine. So I thought I would try these. So we're gonna just pop these through. So ignore how long they are. Oh, no, I'm definitely gonna still need my precision plate. So you can see that it didn't cut all the way through. So we've got our precision plate. That's the metal plate. We're gonna set that underneath. It's like my machine is a little tighter on the edges than in the middle. So just bear with me here. Well loved, that's right. Okay, so I have all this tape on here to get off. It looks like my pieces, my guides stayed pretty good. Like I said, tape is your friend to make sure that things don't move, especially when you are adding that tighter pressure on there. I have played around with using kind of, you know, how you can cut out the die from a piece of scrap cardstock. I tape this really, really well. From a piece of scrap cardstock, I did a pretty darn good job of lining that up. So lots of tape, your precision plate, and then not a ton of pressure. I did have to use my precision plate. You can also add like a layer of cardstock. Now, like I said, sometimes you see where you can make a jig with like your die cut leftover piece. I find that this doesn't totally work for me. Maybe it works for you, but I haven't had a lot of success with using this as a jig with this die. I have used it with other dies, but I had a lot of double cutting and different things like that that have happened. So doing it this way, I'm happy with how this lined up today. I have good times, and every so often, you know how it goes. Okay, I need a paper piercer to get the rest of these out. I do love that they all cut out at one time, because then you have a whole pile of flowers for your project. So I'm just poking in these holes to get these out of here. Like I said, I think my biggest tip is the tape to hold it still so it can't move on your cardstock once you have those guides lined up. These are, I mean, you're doing this a little bit blind. Now you might remember too, we have the holiday version of this, the holiday scattered blooms that we released during our Christmas release as well. And it's the same idea where you're stenciling the flowers. We have the cutting plate so you can cut everything out at once, or you can use the stencil design just as is. Okay, there we go. Look at all our little flower pieces. I'm gonna flip these over, and then we're gonna add splatters to the flowers and also to the other stenciled background that I made. So cute. Yes, Dana, die cutting can definitely be a workout. And this is nice too. Maybe you want to make flower tags with just a few flowers on each. This is great to like mass produce. Now you have a whole bunch of flowers at one time to use on your project. Okay, so I'm gonna slide these over so we can add splatters. I just spread them all out. That didn't go the way I thought. There we go. Get all these bits and pieces here. All right, so I'm going to splatter with my tried and true. This is Chocolate Truffle Liquid Watercolor on my little glass matte palette. This was in the Advent kit. I'm just going to reactivate that with water. If you were at my last live, you saw lots of watercoloring like that. And I'm going to tap it over my finger to add splatters to everything with the chocolate truffle. I have to pick up a little more color here. Like I always want at least a couple dots on everything when they're little pieces like that. And then let's do a layer of splatter with the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. You could splatter before you cut out, absolutely. I just didn't, so we're splattering now. Yes, Pam, the script stamp would be very cool on these flowers. I think Mindy did that in her video with the last kit. She stamped that script over the flowers, and it is very pretty. Okay, white splatters with Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. Picking up the color. Like I said, I've got a water brush here, so I'm just working out that color in that lid. Let's add some white splatters to our stenciled background, and then let's go ahead and add white splatters to the die cut flowers. Pick up a little more color here. And I'm feeling like that looks pretty good. All right, splattering is so imperfect. Beth, I know lots of people have talked about that glass block. It's a possibility. I guess I'm not totally sure about the plans on that one, but you never know. But I know a lot of people have given a lot of feedback on the mini glass mat as far as how they would like to have it or get more or something. Okay, so let's move these out of the way, and I'm just going to wipe up my desktop here quick. I am going to grab, a lot of times I'll do this, I'll grab a piece of cardstock and we'll set those pieces on there to get them out of the way. Carrie says she loves that I free range splatter. Yes, I do. We have a lot of conversations about using the box and not using the box down at the studio. Oh, Susan Black, it is coming very soon. There's your answer. Thank you, Susan. All right, let's get all these pieces so I can just wipe up my desk here. These little tiny leaves. I love them so much, but I can't pick them up very easily. I'm just gonna set these aside over here and let's clean up my desk. Just gonna use a little bit of the alcohol spray here. Just dropped my paper towels on the ground and they unrolled just like, you know, that's just how it goes. Now we've talked about cleaning the glass mat before, and just a little spritz of the alcohol does it. The white splatter doesn't come off super easy with the alcohol spray, and so usually what I use to get that or some other things that are tough is like a Clorox wipe. And that I think just breaks down that rest of that stuff. I'm not going to do that now because this is good for what we're going to do. Okay, let's get that die cut machine back. We don't need the precision plate now. I'm going to go back to my regular plates. I probably need to order more plates again. We love our die cut machine. So we've got our background flowers here, and we're going to cut this out with one of the A2 Layer Stacklet dies because I want it to fit behind that frame. So let me see here. I think is it that one? I think it might be that one. Or is it this one? I think it's this one. So we're going to cut it down with, I'm the fourth down from the largest size of the A2 Stacklets. So let's cut that down first. Oh, just dropping everything here. Okay, so I'm just going to center that on that background design. And this is the one that I did previously and used the gold on. Cut that down, and then we're going to use that backer die for the Hey There sentiment to cut that opening in that background. My mat is giving me anxiety. My glass mat or my die cut machine mat? Okay, so then I need that Hey There backer die. So this one right here. So this shape. And we are going to cut an opening with that die. So I'm just going to center that on here. I'm eyeballing. It's a loopy enough font that it should be okay, even if it's a little bit, it's not a super straight font. I remember lining this up when I was making the card. Yes, creative chaos always. Yes. Okay, so here is our frame that we're going to use on our card front. So You can save this, throw this away, whatever you want to do with that. And then while we're here, let's cut out our sentiments as well. So I need the hey there. I'm going to use this here. So I need hey there. And I also need thanks. So we'll cut out that one as well. There's hey there. And these ones I found I don't need any extra pressure for my machine. They really pop out really quite well, really quite easily. I set my TE craft pick down and I cannot see where it went. So I've been grabbing my older ones, but I want my TE one. Where did it go? Okay, so hey there, we're gonna save for up there. And then, like I said, we need to cut out the thanks. Right here. We're gonna cut out the main word out of Sugar Cube. Claudia, the gold was done with a layer of the Happy Medium gold glitter. So I stenciled the Mocha ink for the flower centers and then I added that layer over the top of it. Okay, so I need thanks, but I also need the backer cut out of a piece of vellum. So that's what I got here. There is my backer layer. And I think I have done all the die cutting I need. I already cut out my frame, so I should be good there. So now really we're putting these cards together. Let me grab all the pieces that I have here. I had toffee pieces, there they are. So let's go ahead. I'm going to just adhere this directly down onto this piece of toffee cardstock. So let's grab my tape runner. And when you're doing where you've got some of these details here in a frame opening, make sure you get adhesive on those little pieces that kind of go down, because you want those to lay down and you want the edges to lay down. I'm just going to do that. So I've got that extra adhesive there. Let's just center that on here. And then we're going to add that frame that I cut out with the Frame and Frame 2 die collection. So that is this die collection. And I use that largest frame here out of Sugar Cube cardstock. And we're going to add that right around the edge of that background. My tape runner is being kind of a little bit sticky. I just refilled it not that long ago. What's happening here? So that is going to go right around the outside of that background. Also make sure it's centered on that card background. Looks good. I've got a few layers of hay there, so I had cut these out a couple of times so that we can layer them together. So let's use a little liquid adhesive to do that. I suppose I could use just my tape runner on this too. this works fine. That. And this is just going to give it a little bit more dimension and kind of stand up a little bit from that card front. It's hard to add foam adhesive to the backs of die cuts that have these kind of thinner detailed. I mean, it's not a thin font, but it's definitely, you can't stick a foam adhesive on the back of there. It's a little bit challenging. So stacking them up like this is an easy way to get that dimension on these kind of more detailed die cuts. I'm using a liquid adhesive. I love Multimedia Matte. Okay, we'll pop those together. And then, so that's gonna go there, but I'm gonna let that dry just a minute before I do that. And then we have our thanks. I'm gonna show you a little bit different. The thanks is gonna go on this mini slim card here. Just warning you now, if you are on a time crunch, we're gonna go over just a little bit here, because by the time here we got everything cut out. My time has flown today. And of course, if you can't stay, you can always watch the replay later. Okay. Put that thanks on there. Now what I like to do when I'm using vellum, I've got 2 layers of my thanks together. And I'm going to add that to the backer. So I'm just going to add adhesive to the back of this to go onto the backer. Just adding some dots here. I'm going to add that on top of there. So I've got my thanks like this, and then my final cardstock layer I'm actually going to add behind the vellum layer. I'm going to grab a few magnets just to hold this down and get it to adhere onto the vellum and dry. So I'm going to do my glue on the front part of this thanks. Okay. Then we're just going to layer that right on the back. And the reason I'm doing this is sometimes it's hard to get adhesive into a spot on the vellum that's not going to slip out from behind the piece. This gives you a nice surface to add your adhesive onto and just gives it a little lift also from the base of the cardstock. And you can't see it because it's all layered right behind there. Except this is slitted because it's a little bit wet yet. So I'm going to let this dry for a minute, and let's put the hay there onto this card. This time I'm going to use my tape runner. So I'm just going to run some adhesive onto there. This is just sticky. You know how you get one, once in a while you get one that's just sticky. I don't think this refill is going to last real long in here. let's go ahead and we're going to just pop that right into that opening on the card front. I'm just kind of catching some of those extra adhesive pieces from the tape runner and just kind of rubbing them, and they will usually pop right off here. There we go for that. I'm going to add this to a card base. So this is just a sugar cube card base, an A2 size. Flip it, I usually line up from the top. So let's go ahead and do that. Then I'm also going to add, I'm just going to grab some of these little adhesive kind of goobers that have landed on my letters here. I used little sentiment strips from the Mini Strips Floral stamp. That's this one right here. So we can just kind of add on to those large sentiments. And so I'm just going to add that right in there. Let's grab a foam adhesive. Hold on one second. I'm going to use the thin foam adhesive, and I'm just going to cut a strip off of there just to pop that up just a little bit from the background. These little sentiment strips are embossed in white on dried fig cardstock, and then they're cut out with that Mini Strips die, this one right here, so it cuts out all those sentiments on that stamp at the same time. So kind of the same idea as the flowers as well, where you can get a bunch at one time. All right, let's peel that backer paper off, and then we will set this right about there, underneath there. All right, and let's put the other card together. The one thing I'm probably not going to show you today is I added the glossy white rhinestones kind of scattered through, and I think you guys can figure that out on your own. So that's kind of the final touch on there. So this is right before adding those rhinestones. But let's put together the thanks card. So again, I've got kind of this other surface now to add adhesive onto. So I'm going to do that with a little bit of this tape runner because it's raised up a bit too. It should just mainly go on that paper. I got a tiny bit in there. And again, that just rubs right off. Let's go ahead and center that onto the card front. Maybe slide over just a little bit. I'm going to take my card base and just set it to the side. Let's work right on this piece. This is cut to that mini slim size, which is that 3.5 by 6. And then let's go ahead, we'll grab our flowers. I've got some flowers that I cut out from a previous project, but here's the flowers that we just did. I also want to add that border to the bottom edge as well. I think I used the smaller flowers here and here, so I'm going to grab those smaller size purple flowers. And this is where you can spend a lot of time, obviously, kind of putting your flowers in place. I kind of already did that when I made that first card, so I can adhere these down because I know that works for this, what I wanted. And I'm using those thin foam squares again. See if I can get that on there. Pop these up here. So this is where you can use those individual flowers and have a lot of fun with arranging them however you want on your project. Yes, these large sentiments are so much fun. So when I'm arranging flowers too, I'm starting with these larger blooms, and then I'm going to fill in with those smaller pieces. I know I want my leaves in there. Those I'm going to go directly to the card base. I'm just tucking those right underneath those flowers that I put on with the foam adhesive. Let's put some up here. And then one bigger leaf for that purple flower. I love the detail on these with the little impressions, how it adds that kind of texture on there, the leafy texture. Okay, once I have my larger flowers in place, then I typically then will go back and sprinkle in the little ones. And these ones I cut my little foam squares just in quarters so that they are also popped up. And of course you can glue these directly, you can pop them up with the foam tape. Kind of depends on how you want it to look. Okay, let's cut these in quarters. And again, this one has those rhinestones too, and I'm not gonna add those this time since we are going over for sure. All in the name of crafty, and there's sneak peeks yet, so hold on. So yes, we do have a new release next week, and then the week after. We have like 5 weeks in April, so we get 5 times the crafty. That, and then I'm going to tuck the tiny leaves in there. Again, I'm using a tape runner, but you can use whatever you feel, whatever is your favorite. So there, I've got pretty much just a little flower arrangement around my thanks. Hold on, I didn't get enough adhesive on there. And you could arrange these first and then use press and seal over the top. There's all sorts of ways to do this and line things up. And pop those together. Okay, so I have a scalloped border on the bottom of this card. Let's grab a sentiment to put there. Let's do, we've got, well, thanks a bunch kind of says thanks a bunch. This would be good for Mother's Day. Thanks, Mom, you're the best. Thanks, you make my heart bloom. That might be nice. What else do I got in here? Thanks, I'd pick you. That kind of goes with this one. So thanks, if friends were flowers, I'd pick you. Thanks for all you do. We could just trim one of these. Just trim like a bunch right there. So it just says thanks a bunch. We could do that. Let's do that. I'm gonna just trim this on my trimmer quick. So thanks a bunch. Let's do that. I have a little bit of my strip of my foam that I undid there. I should have cut that border while we were die cutting, but I forgot. So we'll get the die cut machine back out here just a second. Thanks a bunch. Perfect. Or should I move it in a little bit? Maybe there. Okay, so let me slide these out of the way and I'll grab my die cut machine so we can create the border for the bottom edge of that card. Slide everything out of the way. Okay, for the border on the bottom of the card, I am using, this is that More Easy Edgers die collection, and I'm using this largest scallop. I showed you this on another card with the smaller scallop as well. So I have a strip here, it's like a 1/2 inch strip. You can use your easy strips to cut out a strip or use your, just trim it with your trimmer. I'm just gonna line this up with the bottom edge of that strip, just barely out from the edge. Add some tape to hold everything in place, and then send that through. Okay, let's set this aside. We'll undo that. Now it didn't cut through right there, but that's okay. We'll trim that when we get it on the card. So that gave us a cute little border to use on our project. And of course, there's so many cute edgers on here to do all sorts of cute little borders on your card. Let's grab that mini slim card. We're gonna run that tape runner right on there. Excuse me. And we're going to slide that in there. And my flower is a little bit lower than I need it to be. So we'll have to make an adjustment here. Okay, so the leaf here, I'm going to pull up my purple flower quick. I'm going to add that border on there. Pop that flower back. Right there. Trim that with scissors. Let's add this to the card front. And then besides adding those little rhinestones, then this card is done. And again, I like to turn this over and line that up at the top so it falls into place. And here are the 2 cards that I created. And like I said, this one, the only difference that we're seeing here is we have those glossy white rhinestones that I sprinkled across the card on this one here, kind of through the flowers and across the card. And on this one, it's more subtle on this one, but they are kind of in between the little flowers on that background. So there you go. That scattered bloom set. Let me flip you up to the top and then let's talk about sneak peeks. So thanks you guys. So much fun to create with you today and create cards with the newly released and added to our collection Scattered Blooms layering stencil and cutting plate. So let's talk about what's coming up next week. We have a couple of releases actually happening next week. On Tuesday, we have, I think what we're calling like our basics release. So they are products to add to your collection that I think you're going to be reaching for over and over again. So let me show you the card that I created with one of the products that is coming out. This one is all sorts of colorful and rainbowy. So you'll see there's kind of a stripe action happening in the background. And that is one of the new background stamps that's coming out in our basics collection. So I'll let you kind of ruminate on that. And then our Throwback Thursday for next week is another kit that was out last year, and we're releasing pieces of that kit on Thursday. And you'll be doing Susan Block, I believe, is next Thursday, and you'll be doing a project with her using, that's right, is it Hello Lovely Lady? All of a sudden the name just flew out of my head. It's Ladybugs, but what is it called? Hey Lady, Lovely Lady. Oh my gosh, I designed this one too. So I'm so sorry, I cannot think of the name. You're all going to be listing it there in just a second. So that is coming on Thursday. So make sure you stay tuned next week for all sorts of crafty inspiration. There'll be more sneak peeks going up on the blog this weekend. If you're in the not the blog, the Fans of Tailored Expressions Facebook page, there'll be some sneak peeks going up. Actually, I think we do put something up on the blog. So pay attention to our social media. Join the Fans of Tailored Expressions Facebook page if you haven't already. And then next Tuesday, we'll have our release, and then Taylor will be going live to craft with you then. So thanks, you guys. Lovely Lady. Thank you, Susan, so much. Yeah, Susan will be doing the live, and that sounds great. So thank you guys again for joining me today. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye, everybody.